Let me tell you a story about one of humanity's greatest achievements and most tragic losses, the Great Library of Alexandria. It is a tale that spans centuries, filled with brilliant minds, impossible dreams, and the eternal human quest for knowledge. Picture, if you will, the year 95 BCE. The Mediterranean world still echoes with the footsteps of Alexander the Great, though the conqueror himself has been dead for nearly 3 decades. In the delta of the Nile River, where the great waterway meets the sea, stands a city that bears his name, Alexandria. This is no ordinary city, mind you. It is a jewel of the Hellenistic world, a place where Greek ambition meets Egyptian wisdom, where the winds of trade carry not just goods, but ideas from across the known world. It was here that Ptolemy I Soter, one of Alexander's most trusted generals and now ruler of Egypt, conceived of something unprecedented. Perhaps it was the influence of Aristotle's teachings, for Alexander had been the great philosopher's student, or perhaps it was the Egyptian tradition of preserving knowledge that inspired him. Whatever the source, Ptolemy envisioned an institution that would gather all human knowledge under one roof, not just the scrolls of Greece or the papyri of Egypt, but the accumulated wisdom of every civilization they could reach. The Great Library of Alexandria was born from this audacious dream, but it was more than just a library as we might imagine today. It was part of a larger complex called the Mausoleum, the Shrine of the Muses, which served as a university, research center, and haven for scholars from across the ancient world. The Ptolemies, who ruled Egypt after Alexander's death, poured vast resources into this project, understanding that knowledge was power in the most literal sense. The building itself was said to be magnificent beyond description. Ancient sources speak of towering colonnades, reading rooms bathed in Mediterranean sunlight, and corridors that seemed to stretch on forever, lined with countless scrolls. The papyrus rolls were organized by subject: mathematics, astronomy, medicine, literature, history, philosophy, each section overseen by scholar librarians who were themselves masters of their fields. But how does one collect all the world's knowledge? The Ptolemies were nothing if not thorough. They established a policy that would seem extreme by today's standards. Every ship that entered Alexandria's harbor was searched, and any books or scrolls found were confiscated. These were taken to the library, where scribes would create copies. Sometimes the originals were returned to their owners, and sometimes only the copies were given back. The library kept the better version. Naturally, the rulers of Alexandria also actively recruited the most brilliant minds of their time. They offered generous stipends, free room and board, and the promise of access to more knowledge than existed anywhere else in the world. The response was extraordinary. Euclid came and wrote his Elements, the foundation of geometry that students still study today. Archimedes visited and made discoveries about physics and mathematics that wouldn't be equaled for centuries. Eratosthenes not only served as the library's chief librarian, but also calculated the circumference of the Earth with stunning accuracy, using nothing more than shadows and geometry. The astronomer Hipparchus catalogued the stars and discovered the precession of the equinoxes. The physician Herophilus performed the first systematic dissections of human bodies, revolutionizing medical knowledge. The poet Callimachus created the first library catalog system, organizing knowledge in ways that influenced how we arrange information to this day. These weren't just scholars working in isolation, they formed a community, debating, collaborating, and building upon each other's work in ways that accelerated human understanding at an unprecedented pace. At its height, the library was said to contain between 400,000 and 700,000 scrolls, virtually every significant work of the ancient world. There were multiple copies of Homer's epics, the complete works of the great tragedians, treatises on everything from agriculture to philosophy, histories of distant lands, and scientific works that pushed the boundaries of human knowledge. Scholars came from as far away as India and the British Isles to study there. But here's where our story takes a darker turn, for the Library of Alexandria was not destined to last forever. Its decline was not the result of a single catastrophic event, as popular myth suggests, but rather a slow fade that reflected the changing fortunes of the city and the world around it. The first blow came when Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria in 48 BCE, pursuing his rival Pompey. During the siege of the city, fires broke out in the harbor area, and ancient sources suggest that some books stored in warehouses near the docks were destroyed. However, this was far from the total destruction of the library. It continued to function for centuries afterward. More damaging was the gradual shift in the ancient world's center of gravity. As Rome's power grew, Athens and later Constantinople became more attractive to scholars. The Ptolemaic dynasty, which had been the library's great patron, ended when Cleopatra VII died in 30 BCE, and Egypt became a Roman province. Roman rulers, while not hostile to learning, had different priorities and were less willing to fund such an expensive institution. The rise of Christianity also changed the intellectual landscape. Some Christian leaders viewed the library's pagan texts with suspicion. The mathematician and philosopher Hypatia, one of the last great scholars associated with the library, was murdered by a Christian mob in 415 CE, an event that symbolized the end of Alexandria's role as a center of classical learning. The final blow may have come in 641 CE when Arab forces conquered Alexandria. Some accounts suggest that the remaining books were used as fuel for the city's baths, though modern historians question whether this story is true or merely legend. What is certain is that by this time, the Great Library had already faded into history. The loss of the Library of Alexandria has echoed through the ages as one of humanity's greatest tragedies. We can only imagine what knowledge disappeared forever. Scientific discoveries that might have advanced human understanding by centuries, literary works that could have enriched countless generations, historical accounts that might have solved mysteries that perplex us still. Yet perhaps the library's greatest legacy is not what was lost, but what it represented. It embodied the radical idea that knowledge belongs to all humanity, that the pursuit of understanding transcends national and cultural boundaries, and that preserving and sharing information is one of civilization's highest callings. In our digital age, as we create new forms of libraries and archives, the ghost of Alexandria reminds us of both the fragility and the importance of human knowledge. Every database, every digital library, every effort to preserve and share information carries forward the dream that began in that ancient city by the sea, the dream of gathering all human wisdom in one place, where any curious mind might find the answers they seek. The Great Library of Alexandria may be gone, but its vision lives on wherever people gather to learn, to question, and to push the boundaries of human understanding. In that sense, the library truly died. It simply found new forms, new guardians, and new ways to kindle the eternal flame of human curiosity.